What is up, everybody? Welcome in to 2021 NFL draft season here on That Franchise Guy with the first What I Would Do mock draft of the season. We are going to get into it, but I do have some housekeeping before we get started. So again, like I just said, this is a What I Would Do mock draft, not necessarily a predictive mock, but this is me putting myself in the chair of all 32 NFL GMs doing my best based on my evaluations to improve the status of each team heading into the 2021 season. And that will, by the way, include trades. And then also, guys, if you enjoy this video, if you enjoy my draft content, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss any uploads throughout the year. We are going to have more mock drafts. We're going to have top 10 positional videos for each grouping, lots more stuff ahead, sleepers videos, you name it. And of course, my live draft stream here on draft night that I am so excited for. It's one of the best nights of the year. And then if you just can't get enough, head over to my Patreon for exclusive draft content as well. The full TFG Draft Insider Package is available there. You can get access to my comprehensive draft board that when all is said and done, I'll have player profiles and grades on over 500 players, exclusive prospect film breakdowns that we're going to get started on next week, doing guys like Wilson and Lawrence. And leading up to the draft, we do team-specific 7-round mock drafts for each team, all available on Patreon. So it's a great time to sign up. It's early in the month. Lots of great draft content ahead. That is patreon.com/thatfranchiseguy. So let's get into the mock draft. And one more time, guys, this is a What I Would Do mock draft. And because we are very early in the process here as far as evaluation, lots, and I mean lots, is going to change, but that's okay. We're going to be collecting new information all the way up to April, but as we sit here today, this is what I would do based on what I know about these players right now, and I'll be upfront. I have only had time to dive in deep and do full player evals on 5 guys here. Now, it's not that I'm flying in completely blind and that I know nothing about everyone else, but I only have actual grades on 5 players as we sit here today, and that is the top 4 quarterbacks. I've been spending all week going through these guys, making sure I had polished opinions on those guys. I wanted to at least know what I was talking about with the top 4 quarterbacks for this mock draft, and Ja'Marr Chase, because I saw so much of him playing with Joe Burrow, and he didn't play this year, so there was no new information there. But yeah, there's 5 players that I just mentioned have full evals, and the rest of these guys will be up and down the draft board throughout the season, and that is the beauty of this, is the varying opinions, how much things can change, all of the information that we are to collect here and convey to you guys. And not just that, the actual draft order here is going to change, because once we get to the 19th pick, I believe it is, that's all playoff teams. So I just went off of my own playoff predictions. If you haven't seen that video from Monday, make sure you go check that out as well. But the draft order itself is going to change unless I am 100% accurate with my predictions, which would be awesome. But let's get started here with the number 1 overall pick. I promise you, not every video is going to have that whole spiel, but this is the first video of draft season, so I had a lot to get off my chest there. Let's get started. Number 1 overall pick. Congratulations, Jaguars fans, after suffering through Blake Bortles and Blaine Gabbert and Nick Foles. You get Trevor Lawrence. There's not much to really say here. He really is a generational quarterback prospect. He's not perfect. He's not bust-proof, especially with the Jags organization that, let's just say, has a lot to prove. And I think with any prospect, it does matter where they go and how much they develop them. Lawrence is far from a perfect player. He will make mistakes. He needs to improve his processing and all this stuff. But right now, I've got my comp as Andrew Luck. He is the best quarterback prospect to come out since Andrew Luck, at least the highest upside guy. I would argue Burrow was more bust-proof per se because of how fundamentally sound he was. But anyway, Trevor Lawrence, number 1 pick to Jacksonville, and you can really hit the ground running with a new coaching staff. And then the number 2 pick here, and I do expect this to be, I don't know if it's necessarily controversial, but maybe the biggest talking point is this number 2 overall pick. It's a polarizing situation, not just because there's disagreement as far as who the second best quarterback is in this class, but also they have Sam Darnold. Do you give up on Sam Darnold? And going through this week, something really popped to me. I wasn't really sure who the number 2 quarterback was going to be, but after getting through every single drop back that these next 3 quarterbacks have taken, it could not be any more clear to me that Zach Wilson is the second best quarterback in this class. And it's not a slight to Fields and Lance. We're going to get to those guys here. I do like them in their own right. But Zach Wilson as a passer is so much more refined. And I really think if you aren't on board with Wilson as QB2 in this class right now, I do truly believe that is going to be a consensus opinion as we work our way up to April, because his film is just that far ahead of the other guys. So why is that? He does things as a passer that the other quarterbacks simply don't do. A lot of it is the attention to detail stuff that projects as a high-level passer at the next level. So what is that? Talking about, obviously, the pocket presence, the ability to manipulate pressure. We all can see that. You can see that in a highlight reel. He is exceptional at that. But it's not just that. It's stuff that doesn't show up in a highlight reel. Talking about holding safeties with his eyes, the ability to throw with leverage away from defenders. And beyond that, this isn't Drew Lock we're talking about here. He knows what is called NFL open. A lot of young quarterbacks get to the league and they need to see receivers open up before they fire the trigger. That's not Zach Wilson. I would argue that Fields and Lance at this point probably are. They do need to develop that anticipation as a passer. But with Wilson, he will throw into windows that you didn't think were there. He will throw receivers open. He does a lot of fine stuff as a passer that I don't think he's getting credit for at this point in time. But leading up to April, the more people that dive into his tape, I think the more people are going to see this. And to me, Wilson is one of the better quarterback prospects I've evaluated. I would stack him right up behind Lawrence. I really am that high on him. I stack him up with Joe Burrow last year, Kyler Murray. I feel very confident in Zach Wilson. I just hope that the Jets can do the right thing here and put pieces around him to succeed, unlike they did with Sam Darnold. And the last little piece here is this is going to include a trade, not this pick, but I will talk about it here. Sam Darnold is going to be heading to the Carolina Panthers. I think they have the best pick to offer. Again, it takes two to tango. It takes a trade partner, and I am in the GM chair of all 32 teams in this situation. And the team that I felt in best position to make a fair offer for Sam Darnold was the Carolina Panthers, to sit behind Teddy Bridgewater for a year for the 8th pick in the 2nd round. I don't think you're getting a first for Sam Darnold, but I do think with his market, that is about as good as it's going to get for the Jets. And if I'm the Panthers, I would also make that move. Worth getting a high upside quarterback here. And then with the 3rd overall pick, the Miami Dolphins will be drafting Penei Sewell. And I definitely thought about a trade down here. This is another big discussion, is can you trade down? But it does take two to tango. And I see Atlanta sitting at 4. They'd probably be fine getting Fields or Lance, or at least I would based on my evals. Those guys are pretty close. The Bengals at 5, they're not trading up for a quarterback. And the Eagles at 6, probably not trading up for a quarterback. I want to still land in that top 6 if I'm Miami, because I want Sewell, Chase, or Devontae Smith to help out Tua Tagovailoa. The quarterbacks available, to me, not good enough prospects to give up on Tua already. To me, you need a generational talent. If you were to get Wilson here at 3, I would definitely think about it. But Fields and Lance, I think, too risky. I would just put the best players in front of Tua to help him succeed. And that's going to be Penei Sewell, franchise left tackle. And this doesn't just improve your left tackle. This actually improves the whole unit, because you can kick Austin Jackson over to right tackle. You upgrade there. And then you can kick Robert Hunt into guard, where I personally had him in my draft board last year. And I kind of showed that he doesn't have that foot speed to play right tackle. But you kick him inside, you could upgrade right tackle. You could upgrade right guard. And all of a sudden, that offensive line not looking so bad, because Flowers at left guard, Karras at center. You could do actually worse than that. Then the 4th overall pick, this would be one of my favorite landing spots in the class, and that is Justin Fields to the Atlanta Falcons. Not just because he would be the chosen one. He was kind of almost kicked out of Georgia in some ways after he could not beat out Jake Fromm at Georgia, but a lot of people felt like that was the wrong decision, that Georgia should have stood behind Fields, who had more physical talent. Well, he goes off to Ohio State, kicks ass, and here he is, the 4th overall pick, coming home, if you will, to Georgia. But it's not just that. Fields is what you describe as a boom or bust prospect, in my opinion. We don't need to get into the Ohio State quarterback thing and how no one from that school has worked out, because I don't really look at players like that. But I will say a lot of it is for a reason, in that things are very simplified at Ohio State. And it shows in Fields' tape how much he struggles to come off of the first read, to go through his progressions. He is frustratingly slow at times to come off that first read. You'll see him freeze up his feet. He can get caught off guard from a blindside defender that he's just not worried about because he trusts his protection so much, and he got such great protection there. But it shows. You see the pick against Indiana where he is glued in on his first read on the right side. It's cover 3, and he's way late to get to his second read, and he throws it late over the middle. The safety came back and picked it off. There's not really any holding defenders, any faking guys out going on. It's just very simplified passing structure that you're seeing from Fields. And the reason I like this is he can sit behind Matt Ryan. He can sit behind Matt Ryan, who just might be the best mentor behind like Tom Brady and Drew Brees to teach a guy like Fields to become a more methodical passer. So I love putting Fields here. You sit him for a year, you sit him for 2 years, and you really help grow this player to become the elite upside that he does have. So Fields is my pick with the 4th pick. And then Ja'Marr Chase, another great spot here, number 5 to the Cincinnati Bengals. If there's a question about Ja'Marr Chase, it's how does he hit the ground running after taking a year off of football? Well, to put him with Joe Burrow, who he dominated with in college the last time he was on the field, yeah, that's just perfect. I mean, he's going to be right back where he left off. It's going to help out Joe Burrow. I don't see the other tackles at this point in time as a pick here. If you could trade down, maybe you could. I didn't find a dance partner on that one. So you take Ja'Marr Chase, you reunite him with Joe Burrow. Pretty self-explanatory. You got him, T. Higgins. There's other avenues to build and repair the offensive line. You have another top 37 pick in the second round. There's free agency. You do have Jonah Williams. There's other ways to do this. So Ja'Marr Chase, get an elite receiving duo for Joe Burrow for his career and someone he's familiar with. Then we have Devontae Smith here to the Philadelphia Eagles with the 6th overall pick. For years, I've been mocking the Eagles to trade up to take a receiver the last 2 years, really, and now they don't have to. They're actually picking 6th. This is going to open everything up, make everyone's job easier. Obviously, the quarterback, whether it's Wentz or Hurts here, getting a receiver that can beat press, get open early, and be that deep threat. It takes pressure off of Jalen Reagor, who doesn't need to be something he's not as a number 1 receiver. And it takes pressure off of Doug Peterson, who to me is a terrible coach, terrible play caller, but he's coming back next year. So, this will make life easier on him as a play caller to have a receiver that can be your true number 1. Pretty easy pick there for the Eagles with Chase off the board. Then the 7th overall pick, I'm going to have a trade here for the Detroit Lions. They have more than one problem, and I don't think a linebacker like Micah Parsons, that's going to be a very common mock draft, with the 7th pick is going to fix everything. And the beauty of trading down here is you're not writing off getting him or other great prospects in this class. I think they're, other than Micah Parsons, who is a position of less value, you're not really getting that elite impact. If you can find a team to trade up for Trey Lance and get that quarterback trade value for a team that it does have a lot of holes, I'm going to do that if I'm the Lions. And my dance partner here is the San Francisco 49ers. Talk about scheme fit, man. Trey Lance doing a lot of the same stuff he did in college with a more simplified scheme, creating easy first reads. Lance, to me, is a completely raw, open slate prospect. You love the traits and you love the character. But beyond that, and you like the accuracy for sure, just everything physically speaking, and the character is great. But he's a raw passer. It really is that simple. I went through his entire tape, and there's just not a lot of going through progressions. There's not a lot of detail to his passing game. That all needs to come in time, and I believe it can. But again, he's a very boom or bust prospect. I compare him to Josh Allen as like a 21-year-old at Wyoming. But you put him here in San Francisco, a year to sit and learn, get familiar with the system, learn from Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think in year 2, you're looking at Trey Lance as finally getting that elite upside franchise quarterback for Kyle Shanahan. The trade here is the Lions get the 12th pick, still getting a really good prospect there. You get the 3rd round pick from the Niners, which is a top 100 pick, and you get a 2nd round pick next year from the Niners. So lots of draft capital there for Detroit. And you're going to end up with a guy that I would have taken anyway at 7, so you'll see that soon. But then the Carolina Panthers at 8, we're going to grab Kyle Pitts. So you got Sam Darnold, you have Teddy Bridgewater. The quarterback situation, we've got a plan there. But we are going to continue to put the most help in front of these quarterbacks as possible. The receiving group is great. Hopefully he can bring Curtis Samuel back. But that tight end group for quarterbacks that like their tight ends, especially Teddy Bridgewater, but Sam Darnold would, he has had a chemistry with Chris Herndon. Kyle Pitts is just incredible. He gives you that another mismatch problem here. Really pretty self-explanatory here. The value's there, the need is there. So the Panthers getting Kyle Pitts at 8. Then with the 9th pick, the Denver Broncos are going to grab Patrick Surtain. You have AJ Bouye is on his way out. He's older. I don't know if he's on a contract or what, but he hasn't been all that great. Oje Mudia, Surtain is a zone corner that would be a perfect fit here for Vic Fangio in this defense. Fits the need, value, love this pick right here. Then number 10, the Dallas Cowboys. This is going to be, I guess, a hot take because I don't think a lot of people are aware of this guy at this point, but Christian Barmore, a defensive tackle out of Alabama, one of the most productive pass rushers in college football, has that speed track that many of these Bama defensive linemen have. Right now, I'm not seeing him in a lot of first-round mocks. I think that's going to change very quickly. I think he does declare, and then at that point, he's only a sophomore. At that point, people start watching his tape, and it's a pretty weak defensive tackle class as well. It's a huge need for Dallas. I would have liked to trade down, but I just didn't have a trade partner there. And you're not taking Micah Parsons because you're set at linebacker. But the next team here is going to grab Micah Parsons, and that is the New York Giants. Put him next to Blake Martinez, who's had a better year, but still not someone you want to lean on as your number 1 linebacker, in my opinion. Good leader, but not a good coverage player. And that's what Micah Parsons can bring, is that do-it-all 3-down linebacker play, become the leader of that defense for years. Joe Judge is going to love Micah Parsons. So there's the pick right there. And then with the Detroit Lions, where we traded down, I mentioned we were going to get the guy that I was targeting anyway, and that is Jaylen Waddle. Marvin Jones on his way out here. We don't even know what Kenny Galladay's situation is going to be here. Matthew Stafford is at his best when he can let the damn thing fly, and that is what you're going to get in Jaylen Waddle. I mean, think about Henry Ruggs last year, a slightly different player. But to me, Jaylen Waddle is a great target for Detroit. I would rather add Jaylen Waddle to open up this passing game than take a linebacker like Micah Parsons, because I just think it's a bigger need for Detroit, to be completely honest. I think it's incredibly valuable to have 2 guys like a Galladay and a Jaylen Waddle. So there's the pick for Detroit. Then the 13th overall pick, picking up the pace here. Pretty self-explanatory. Christian Darrisaw, the next top tackle to the Chargers. This guy's been on a hot track. A lot of people praising his athleticism and upside at the tackle position. Could be a guy that sneaks into that top 10. Excited to kind of dive into his tape and see what's there. Then the Minnesota Vikings at 14. I know they've traditionally stayed away from edge rushers in the first round in years past, but if this is me drafting, I'm taking Kwity Paye to pair as a power rush threat opposite of Danielle Hunter. This was one of the worst defensive lines in the NFL last year, this year, whatever. So heading into next year, all of a sudden you bring Hunter back, you bring Pierce back, and then you add Kwity Paye on the other side. That's restoring a defensive line overnight. Then the New England Patriots, Rondale Moore off the board here to the Patriots. This is exactly what they need. They need a separator, a guy that can create after the catch. If you get Rondale Moore here, I think you can actually bring Cam Newton back, because he's going to add some of that explosiveness after the catch. This offense completely operates within 10 yards, but Rondale Moore is going to open everything up. He's got injury concerns. People are putting him in the second round. There's no freaking way Rondale Moore is not a top 20 pick. These are the kind of guys that NFL teams are just in love with, and for good reason. So Rondale Moore, 15 to the New England Patriots. Then the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to grab the next offensive tackle here. It's Jalen Mayfield. I like that he isn't 6'6", 6'7". I think that does matter with Kyler Murray. You want the height level lowered a little bit there. I think it sounds dumb, but when you're 5'9", that does help. And Mayfield is an excellent run blocker and pass protector, junior coming out of Michigan. This guy, I wouldn't be surprised if he sneaks into the top 10 just because of his pedigree. Then you got Caleb Farley here to the Raiders. They, to me, whiffed on the Arnett pick. I don't know what that was all about. I thought he was a third-round prospect. Not that he can't be a starter or whatever, but you need help at corner. You really need help. I'm not prepared to go into next year with Damon Arnett as my number 2 corner. Caleb Farley has a ton of upside. This team loves to run a lot of zone coverage, a lot of cover 4, cover 3. Caleb Farley is just a significantly better option to do that. Then the Miami Dolphins with the 18th pick. So again, we're getting towards our playoff predictions. The Dolphins are the last pick that's locked in. And we're going to grab Kadarius Toney. Tua, I'm not going to say he can't throw with anticipation, but it would greatly help him to have a receiver that can get open quick. And Kadarius Toney, great short route runner, great after the catch to create some things, generate some first downs, and can be a deep threat, can be a do-it-all separator. Think about like Jerry Jeudy in some ways to what he had at Alabama. So we're going to put Kadarius Toney staying in Florida here to the Miami Dolphins. You improve the offensive line, you get him and Parker and Gesicki. All of a sudden, you've got something there that Tua can work with for next year. Then the Washington football team at 19. Again, guys, check out my playoff predictions video from Monday to get the explanation on why I see the playoffs playing out this way. But the football team at 19, maybe there'll be a new team name by April. But we're going to grab Rashad Bateman, receiver out of Minnesota. A comp for me is Michael Thomas. Now, people are going to freak out because, Michael Thomas is a sticky subject out there because he is a fantastic player, but very similar stylistically. And I do think Rashad Bateman can be similar to Michael Thomas in that he dominates from the slot. He's a smooth route runner, great hands in traffic. He's tough after the catch. He will absorb hits from safeties. He's a great counterpart to Terry McLaurin, who's your typical outside boundary number one receiver. So it's not that Bateman can't play outside. I think he can, just like Michael Thomas does, but kind of that inside flex piece to beef up the receiving core for this Washington team that desperately needs it. I thought about Mac Jones just because this team does need quarterback, obviously, and they're ready to win. But to me, from what I've seen from Mac Jones, I'm not spending a first-round pick on him. That could very well change as we get into him. That's probably the one player I wish I would have been able to watch a little more of before we did this, but it is what it is. We'll see if that changes as we go. Then the Chicago Bears. Again, another team that Mac Jones might make sense. This is a spot here that I'm definitely looking at for Mac Jones as I evaluate him. But anyway, we are going to take a Notre Dame tackle, Liam Eichenberg. They have actually had Notre Dame at center, right guard, and now right tackle. I don't know if those two guys that ended up finishing the season there will be starting next year, but they've had success with Notre Dame tackles. Another player I'm excited to dive into, a guy with potentially high pedigree that kicked ass in college. So tackle's a huge need for the Bears. They have a couple guys, but they're older. They've regressed. Pretty easy pick there for the Bears if you're not going quarterback. Then the Indianapolis Colts. It's a tough spot here. I wouldn't take a Mac Jones. That's just not the upside you're looking for to sit behind a Phillip Rivers or whatever. But where I'm going here is upside on defense, and that's going to be Gregory Rousseau. I know I'm not really going to like this guy's tape, but he's kind of your typical, think like Montez Sweat a little bit, like physical freak, guy that really needs to refine his tools at the next level. If he gets good coaching, however, just as Montez Sweat has, in Washington now with Ron Rivera, he's a guy that could figure out how to utilize and package the strength and get off that he does have. So another player that'll be interesting to dive into, but a good fit here in this 4-3 team with the Colts. They need some upside at edge. They just don't have it right now, and you're getting that in Gregory Rousseau. I love the landing spot. Then at 22, the Cleveland Browns, we're going to take Dylan Moses. I know he's not getting mocked in the first round a lot. He's had a down season for Alabama. I'm aware of all of that. But he gives you a leader to the defense. I know the kid out of Notre Dame is a freak athlete and all this stuff. But to me, Cleveland needs some continuity and some leadership in the middle there. He is more of your traditional middle linebacker than Karoma out of Notre Dame. So we're going to grab Dylan Moses here for the Cleveland Browns. Start beefing up that defense a little bit. Offense in pretty good shape. No receivers here that I got too excited about drafting for them. Then the Tennessee Titans with the 23rd pick. We're going to take Asante Samuel Jr., another player that not currently being mocked in a ton of first rounds, but with his athletic traits, with his heritage, with Asante Samuel being his father, I see a team like Tennessee that loves their man coverage. Mike Vrabel not going anywhere here. He is going to build this team in the Belichickian format where they are going to load up on athletic corners that can stick with guys. Adoree Jackson is entering the fifth-year option. You have the kid out of LSU last year that is maybe not the answer. So you take Adoree Jackson, you take another piece at corner there. That secondary has been so brutal this year, and he's the type of corners stylistically that I know my coach Mike Vrabel will want. Then the Jets at 24. This is the Seahawks pick for Jamal Adams. We're going to grab Samuel Cosmi. We're going to play him at right tackle, so you now have a tackle duo there for Zach Wilson to develop in front of him. You get Mims back in there. Maybe you can add a receiver through free agency. Ideally, that would be the case here. But the offensive line, all of a sudden, not looking so bad. Maybe George Fant, who you paid a lot of money, can go in and play guard, but he is not the answer at tackle. So there you go. Samuel Cosmi, tackle out of Texas to the Jets. Then the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to grab Joseph Osai, pass rusher out of Texas. He is the mold for the Baltimore Ravens, that outside linebacker type of pass rusher who can push the pocket, and he even offers some bend around the edge, some athleticism. He gives you something that Judon doesn't give you, gives you something that Jalen Ferguson doesn't give you. I don't believe that they're going to bring Yannick Ngakoue back. We'll see what he does in the playoffs, but even if they do, they like these pocket pushers here. That's their style of pass rusher, and traditionally they're able to get these guys second, third round, but this has become a more urgent need. Matt Judon is getting expensive. Jalen Ferguson hasn't quite come along in year two as much as they would have hoped he would, so we're going to grab Joseph Osai, who's an immediate upgrade at edge, and again, a great scheme fit. Then Jacksonville at 26. You'd love to give Trevor Lawrence some help, but when I look at the guys on the board at this point, I don't see automatic upgrades. You have two tackles there that aren't great, but I don't know if anyone left here is immediately an upgrade. Again, at receiver, they have some pieces as well, and you are picking again in a few picks here. So I'm going to take the best player on the board, and it's still a need. At some point, this team does need a defense, so we're going to take J.C. Horn, who has incredible upside. This would be considered probably a slight fall. I think he's going to be in that 13 to 21 range unless you get a fall like this. So you put him next to Henderson, who you took in the top 10 last year. All of a sudden, you got an excellent corner tandem, similar to what you had in Boye and Jalen Ramsey there. And then with the 27th pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers, we're going to grab Creed Humphrey, another potential Mac Jones spot, but I would be looking for more of a high upside project behind Big Ben than a guy that is, more of that system average, quarterback like Mac Jones. But yeah, we're going to grab Creed Humphrey. I've talked about this offensive line, how they haven't done as much to reinvest in it as I think they should have. Filer may or may not be back here next year. Pouncey consistently injured at center. Creed Humphrey injects some youth into the interior offensive line. David DeCastro is regressing. And you need a right tackle as well. Maybe that's the pick. But we're going to grab the best one available, and that is Creed Humphrey. And then the New Orleans Saints at 28. This was a tough spot. Again, another Mac Jones spot. That's going to be a name that I bet one of these teams will end up liking him and they take him. But as I sit here today, I just can't bring myself to spend the value of a first-round pick on a Mac Jones. But regardless, we're going to take Chris Olave here, receiver out of Ohio State. So you have Michael Thomas there, obviously. You have Emmanuel Sanders, but he is definitely into his elder years of his career. So you're going to put Olave right there with a mentor out of Ohio State in Michael Thomas. You're going to get the most out of him, and you're going to help out whoever the quarterback is next year. I don't think a 34, 35-year-old Emmanuel Sanders and Michael Thomas, Jared Cook probably on his way out here. I don't think that's enough for a non-Drew Brees at quarterback. So we're going to put Olave in here. It makes sense. He stylistically is a guy that can separate early and often, beat press, run some of those short to intermediate routes, a guy that Sean Payton will definitely like. So we're going to take Chris Olave out of Ohio State. Then for Buffalo at 29, this was a tough spot. I'm going to take Azeez Ojulari. All of a sudden, that defensive line showing some pretty immense upside. You need a long-term replacement for Jerry Hughes, and if not that, you need a number 2 next to Jerry Hughes. Azeez Ojulari does not need to be a high-level impact right away. He is more of a raw speed rusher type of dude, but you have A.J. Epinesa, you have Jerry Hughes, you have Ed Oliver, a defensive line with a ton of upside that can grow together, a scheme that likes versatile pieces like this. So Azeez Ojulari, who is a player that I could see creeping up, but at some point he's going to need to convert speed to power. He is an undersized guy, and we've seen Georgia pass rushers, guys like Leonard Floyd, with this mold struggle to become high-end pass rushers because of their inability to convert speed into power as a rusher. But then with the 30th pick, the Green Bay Packers, how long can this team really go without spending a first-round pick on a receiver? No further, says I. We're going to take Terrace Marshall out of LSU. I know a lot of receivers have gone, but the way I see Terrace Marshall being used very similarly to Justin Jefferson at LSU, who has had immense success in the same scheme for the Minnesota Vikings. So following the path here of Justin Jefferson, Terrace Marshall, Brian Gutekunst seems stubborn to draft any receiver that is under 6 feet tall. Well, here you go. Terrace Marshall, 6'2", 6'3". Get a legitimate number 2 opposite of Devontae Adams to kick ass and take names here. And at some point, Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be here. And frankly, at some point down the road, Devontae Adams isn't going to be here. He's 28, 29 years old. If you want Jordan Love to succeed down the road, you got to get some young excitement in the passing game here, as good as Aaron Rodgers has been with the current unit. Then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with 31st overall pick. Remember, I have them going to the Super Bowl. I have them taking Travis Etienne. This roster is just so complete. I mean, seriously, maybe you're thinking about an edge rusher here, but top to bottom of the defense, you are set. Offensive line, you're in really good shape. Maybe you think about a right guard, but Cap has been fine. And, receivers, you're set. Tight end, you're set. Like, seriously, this team has no needs. And when I see a team like that picking at the end of the first round, I'm grabbing the best running back on the board, Travis Etienne, especially when that might be their worst position. Ronald Jones isn't bad, but he's not Travis Etienne. And he really struggles in the receiving game with Tom Brady, who I do think comes back next year. Travis Etienne is Kamara-esque, at least, with the fluid hands out of the backfield. And it just makes way too much sense here. Travis Etienne, whether the Bucs lose in the first round and they're picking 23 or they pick 31, I think they're going to have their eye on Travis Etienne. That feels to me like one of the most likely picks in this draft. And then the Kansas City Chiefs wrapping the mock draft up, grabbing Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle out of Northwestern. Sat out his final season, an interesting prospect. A lot of interesting tackles in this class with youth and athleticism. With the Kansas City Chiefs, you got Fisher, you got Schwartz, not the long-term answers at tackle. You did draft the kid out of TCU next year, but Slater, higher upside, and you need 2 guys. So we're going to grab Rashawn Slater for Patrick Mahomes. That protection was not as good as they had hoped this year, so we're going to beef that up. So there's the mock draft. I hope you guys enjoyed. Really excited to hear what you say in the comments down below. Always fun. Again, guys, if you enjoyed this, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn on notifications. We got so much more draft content ahead. We are just scratching the surface with this, and that's it. Thank you for watching. Cheers. We'll see you for the next one. Peace out.